I've just been clipped by some van. Oh, that's my first bike crash since I was 17. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 4 of my prep for the Celtman. Today is Saturday morning and I'm staring down the barrel of a 90-mile bike ride into a 7.5-mile run. So for those that have been watching the previous episodes, you'll know that the past few weeks I've been doing a big pre-fatigue session on the Friday ahead of my brick session on Saturday. But this week there's no pre-fatigue session, so I'm hoping that this long brick is just going to build up some confidence on my legs on the bike. We've got about 6,000 feet of elevation on this ride, so it's not going to be an easy one, but I'm excited to see how this feels without all that fatigue and volume in my legs from the week beforehand. So just for a bit of context, I'm currently training for the Celtman Extreme Triathlon, which is a 3.4 kilometre swim, a 202 kilometre bike ride with over 2,000 metres of elevation, and a marathon over 2 Melrose in the Scottish Mountains on June the 12th. So if you want to go back and watch the previous videos so you can get up to speed on what's going on, what my prep's looking like, etc., then please do. But for today, what I'm going to do is first of all get a decent amount of carbohydrates in me. So I have 100 grams of oats, 2 scoops of awesome supplements, whey, 150 grams of vanilla skyr, 150 grams of milk, some sweetener, blended overnight oats with some almond butter and a banana, as well as a coffee to wake me up because it's currently just gone 5 AM. So what I'm going to do is eat this and I'll take you through what I'm taking with me on the bike, and I'll take you on the bike ride with me. Isn't this going to be a lot of fun? Fergus was soon to realise that it was in fact not to be a lot of fun. Okay, so I thought I'd show you what I've actually got on the bike and I'm taking with me. First up, sunglasses. Going to be a bright and sunny day, although it is about -1 degrees. So definitely taking a pair of overshoes, definitely taking a pair of gloves, and that should keep me relatively warm. The issue at the moment is it's cold, but when you're in direct sunlight in a long sleeve top, it does just get a bit intense if you're going on hills and stuff, so it's a difficult part of the year to dress for, but nonetheless, that's all part of the equation, isn't it? So food wise, I have 2 bananas in here, 3 gels and a brunch bar, and then up here in my bento box I've got a gel and another brunch bar. Worth mentioning at this point that I generally shoot for 0.75 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight per hour. If you want more information on how I manage nutrition, you can head back to the video that has this thumbnail here, and the link is in the description down below as well, but I give you more information on how I approach nutrition in there. But for the first hour today, I'm not going to worry about it as I've had a lot of carbs in me, but for every hour after that I'm going to try and get around 65 grams of carbs in, so 30 grams give or take every 30 minutes, and then make up the rest as I go with electrolytes and carbs, which are going to be in here, 750 millilitres, as well as here on the bottle cage, and then I'm going to have 500 millilitres of water in my front easily accessible tube there. I've got 2 spare tubes, some CO2 canisters, although I did lose my CO2 cracker last week, so I've only got those canisters in case I come across a cyclist that actually has one if I have a puncture. Wishful thinking. And I do have a hand pump here, but for anyone that rides, you'll know you can only get X amount of air into a hand pump, which means that it's not going to be optimal, so fingers crossed I don't have to deal with that, but if so, I'm kind of prepared. Not 100%, but kind of prepared. Other than that, safety first, helmet, obviously. GoPro's going to be in here, phone's going to be in there, and inhalers in the back pocket as well. Going to have a buff on for a mask in case I need to run into a shop to restock, but going to be stopping in Melrose for 15-20 minutes for a coffee with one of my friends that lives there, and I can grab some restock stuff at the co-op there if needs be. But that pretty much covers it for how I'm approaching things today. I'm going to get sorted. Just before 6:45 now, we're going to try and head off at bang on 7 AM and get this done. I'll see you along the way. Lovely start, lovely morning, definitely on the cold side. My hands are practically numb, but what a beautiful morning to be out. Feeling so much fresher than I have done the past couple of weeks already, without all that fatigue in my legs from the Friday sessions I've been doing, so let's see how this goes, eh? So this is quite entertaining. 45 minutes in, and there's been a bit of leakage from the front here, and it's actually started freezing. I don't know if you can see because of the shadow, but it's frozen on my front brake, so
my wheels have been catching and it's felt really odd, and I'm wondering why, and it turns out, of course, that my brakes are frozen, so that's good, that's good. Fuck's sake, I've just been clipped by some van that did not give a shit. Hit the deck, landed on my hip, all down this side of the bike. I don't think I've done any damage, but I've just slammed my hip all on the ground, and my glute med's just fried. I can't believe that. Hit me with his wing mirror, saw me hit the deck, kept going. I wish I'd had the foresight to grab his registration, but God's sake. I got a new Garmin yesterday, which is now all scuffed up. Brilliant, and my hip is pretty sore. It sounds like I'm just being materialistic here, but all jokes aside, I just went timber left hip in contact with the ground. I'm just raging, like, there's plenty of space. Had all that and just hit me. I don't know whether he was not looking or I'm only 50 minutes in, so I don't really know what to do now, because this is a long day, and if my hip gets worse, I'm just going to get further and further away from the house, and I don't have anyone that can pick me up. That's my first bike crash since I was 17. Could have been worse. Bike could be destroyed. I could be out a couple grand. But what's wrong with people, man? What is wrong with people? So I'm moving again. It doesn't feel any worse than just like a dead hip, maybe. Just like an impact problem. So I don't think any damage has been done as such, which is good, but I'm just gonna approach with caution, because as I've said, I'm kind of in limbo in terms of location, but I'm happy to be moving, because this is an important training session, and the last thing I want is some arsehole in a van to ruin it for me. Alright, just crossed over into the borders. I've calmed down, I'm feeling better. That's the biggest climb out of the way, and I felt pretty solid on it. Fair amount of grief in my left glute, but I do think it's just impact pain. I don't think it's actually being aggravated by a pedal stroke. So I'm gonna get some food on board, gonna have a banana, and then it's basically just down into that valley there, all the way down around into Innerleithen, which is where I was last week. But then I've got sort of 10 miles more into Melrose, where I can restock and hopefully be fully calm by that point. What a setting. Beautiful, lovely day. I'm not gonna lie though, my hip is starting to get progressively more and more sore, which is not that encouraging, but I'll keep plodding on, see what happens. So annoying. I've calmed down, but so annoying. Just the lack of humanity for just slowing down and then thinking, nah, don't want to deal with this, I'm off. It's just madness, man. Can't understand people that think like that. So oh well. Oh, sun's gone, which means it's very cold again. I'll see you soon. So I noticed on the way down that my back brake was catching on my back wheel a little bit, but I've just popped into the bike shop in Innerleithen, who have very kindly fixed it for me, so that's all sorted. My hip is locking up a little bit when I stop, so fingers crossed that doesn't get any worse. But 80 miles down into Melrose, and then I can have a coffee and a cake and a moan. Stunning day. That has made a huge difference having my back wheel readjusted. I can feel just the difference in my hip shift, although things are starting to get quite painful on my left hand side. My glute med's just struggling. Any incline, it's screaming at me, so far from ideal, but nonetheless really happy to have had that wheel fixed. It just feels so much smoother. These backcountry lanes are absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at that. Look at that. So crack on, 10 miles to Melrose, see you shortly. All right, just made it to Melrose, so 71.41 kilometers covered. Just for a bit of context, every year for the past 11 years I've been here on this weekend for the Melrose Sevens, which is where Rugby Sevens was created. Obviously COVID last year and this year means that's not happening, but it's quite funny to be back here, not 12 beers deep, but on a bike. So I'm going to grab a coffee, some food, catch up with my friend Doug, who you might have seen from previous videos, and then I'm going to head back depending on how my glute is feeling, because it is quite painful at the moment. Any inclines are giving it a fair amount of grief, so don't want to cause any damage at this point with so much training still yet to do. Latte, biscuit bun and a brownie. So bit of a refuel, bit of a drowning my sorrows. Gonna take 45 minutes to an hour and then crack on. All right, back in the saddle and just had a short climb there that was pissing my hip off, so I've made the decision to jump on the train back to the house and then just do what I can, what's left on the turbo, if anything, because I'm just quite anxious about getting caught out in the middle of nowhere with no one to come get me, with a hip that I can't move on. So I'm going to err on the side of caution, because I don't want to make it any worse, and I can still get some work in on the turbo, and if my hip does get any worse I can just step off and I'm in the house without having to worry about some sort of emergency rescue from a stranger or something, because Erin's test has kept getting pushed back because of COVID, so she can't come get me, and the friend that I was just seeing there lives in the opposite direction, so I can't ask him to come and get me, and public transport / trains in the borders are not that well acquainted, so I'm going to be sensible. I'm going to cut my losses today. Pleased to have got to Melrose and enjoyed basking in the sunlight, but yeah, I'm gonna jump on the train and try and get some work done back at the house on the turbo. Alright, so I'm set up on the turbo. I'm just going to sit on this for a while, basically see how my hip feels. It's definitely stiffened up a little bit on the train back, but just going to try and loosen it off. Just going to sit and clock up some of the mileage that I missed out on calling things short, but the adrenaline's definitely worn off, shock's worn off, and my wrist's quite sore, my hip bone is very sore, but actual movement is okay. It was inclines that was giving it grief, so fingers crossed this will be okay, but I'm just gonna keep out the volume unless this starts feeling any worse, and then I'll get off. But if I need to get off, I'm in the comfort of my own home rather than 30 miles away in some hills with no one to call to come and get me, and no way of using my method of transport, i.e. the bike, to get me home. Yes, if you have picked up on this as well, I was trying to give myself a haircut and the razor ran out midway through and I've lost the charger for it, so if that wasn't obvious already, this monstrosity is my own doing. I have not paid someone to do this to me. Sit around 85 RPM, 90 RPM, just keep it smooth. Hips feeling a bit stiff, bit tight, but most of the pain is on contact. Please excuse the mess in here as well. This is the room where dreams go to die, hence why we have a treadmill and a turbo trainer in here, but it also doubles up as a laundry room and a dumping ground, so I have been dumped in here today. I feel like I'm where I belong. Right, so I've lasted all of 13 minutes and 44 seconds. I've hit my first 6% incline and I've just felt it starting to get a little bit steadily worse. I tried to stand up and that actually flared it up a bit, so I'm going to call it quits there. Something's happened out with my control. What I can control is how I react to this. Yes, I could just sit on a flat route on Zwift for a little while, but given the nature of the Celtman, it's a very hilly race. The focus of my volume should be relevant to the task at hand.
So I'm not going to bother sitting on Zwift for hours and just sit in zone 2. I'm going to get off. I'm going to focus on recovery. Yes, I'm going to drown my sorrows with several beers and a pizza or two, but that's beside the point. So I'm going to crack on with nothing, actually. I'm just so used to saying that today. I'm going to get off the bike. An interesting day, but I thought I'd share this with you all to show how catastrophically sometimes things cannot go to plan, but oh well. A few days have passed since my little incident at the weekend, and upon reflection I am quite alright with everything that's happened. It could have been a lot worse. I could have gone under the van, my bike could have been ripped to pieces, I could have broken something, I could have been put out of the Celtman and beyond. It could have been a lot worse, so ignore all my moaning, ignore all my negativity. But what is a good thing is that I've got that out of the way, and what it's done is it helped me be put in that stressful, adrenaline rushed, compromised position and help my decision making to figure out what to do next, because that means that when I'm in a situation in the future, maybe on race day, maybe in races to come, maybe in events to come, my problem solving ability and ability to calm down and think clearly will be better for having gone through that experience. So is what it is. I can't control dickheads on the road. All I can do is stick to the left hand side of the road and hope that I don't get hit by a van. This time that wasn't the case, but is what it is what it is. I'm not the only cyclist to have gone through this. I will not be the last, but the conclusion that I've come to is if you're on the road, cyclist or motorist, don't be an arsehole. Simple as that. I've seen my fair share of cyclists kicking about on 8 to 12 grand bikes that run red lights, go on pavements to cut people up for Strava segments, etc. And you are just as much of a dickhead as the driver that doesn't leave enough space on the side, because you are giving those cyclists that do adhere to the rules the bad PR. And then let's not forget drivers that don't think cyclists should be on the road, or forget that there's a human being on the bike that is very, very easily messed up by you acting like a dick in a car. You're also not my favourite person in the world. So anyway, rant over. I'm going to wrap this video up there. As you can see, I've given myself a nice decor behind me, a little bit of work to clear my head in between incidents. For those that don't know, I have launched the Modern Mind podcast recently. You can catch the first few episodes on this channel or the new Modern Mind channel, which I've put in the description down below. It's available on all major podcast distributors, so Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts and YouTube, as I've mentioned. Episode 1 is with Roman Kemp, episode 2 is with Gaz Bamford, and episode 3 that is coming up is with none other than Nick Simmons, which I am very excited to share with you. So if you are into podcasts, you are into mindset discussions, you are into understanding the minds that inspire modern society, then you know what to do. If you do listen on Apple Podcasts, it would be great if you rate and review the show. And if you're not on Apple Podcasts, it'd be awesome if you could share it with a friend. Anyway, that is me. My hip is okay, bit of bruising, nothing to write home about, still a bit sore, and it is Thursday today, but I have no biomechanical limitations, which is good. I've got through some squats, I've got through some deadlifts, and my training has not been massively hindered by it this week, other than a bit of impact pain and a bit of a psychological ego bruising. So that's me. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure you give it a like and that you subscribe down below. See you next time.